And this is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up, another bombshell in the development at Uber. The company has fired more than 20 employees after an investigation into sexual harassment claims. Plus, tech companies are joining the global counterterrorism effort. Apple CEO Tim Cook exclusively told Bloomberg how the iPhone maker is working with the UK government to fight terror. And the HPE Discover conference is underway, and CEO Meg Whitman is soon to be giving her keynote presentation. We'll bring you all the latest from Las Vegas. But first, to our lead and a Bloomberg scoop. The fallout from Uber's investigation into harassment claims has led to the firing of more than 20 employees, and the probe into dozens of other employees is ongoing. This on top of the separate investigation commissioned by Uber that's being led by former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. Bloomberg Tech's Eric Newcomer broke the story and joins me now here in the studio. So what do we know?
So there have basically been 215 sort of incidents they're looking into. These are human resources problems, some of them sexual harassment, potentially gender discrimination, retaliation, lots of things. Of those, 20 or more have been fired, and then some are still ongoing, so there are more firings that could occur. There are a few of those are senior executives, and I know you want to know who. Yeah, we don't know exactly who. I mean, Uber itself has to be very careful of facing some sort of lawsuit from these employees if they speak out against them. So there's a lot of sensitivity about who they are. We've seen a lot of executives leave, some of them without statements about why they left, but we're sort of reading the tea leaves right now about.
And what's happening with the investigation that Eric Holder, the former U.S. Attorney General, is handling?
So that's gone to a subcommittee of the board. It's being very tightly held, and we expect probably sometime next week, I'd bet, to find out some public version of what they found, and really importantly, like what he's recommending. So there's the fact element that hopefully we'll find out some new stuff about these incidents we've heard about, and then also Holder's recommendation about what the company should do.
So 20 people have already been fired, but as a result of the Holder investigation, could another shoe drop? Could more firings occur?
Nobody's ruled it out. I think there are a lot of people who still expect actual top executives to be held accountable explicitly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Holder report.
Meantime, there have been other executives who have left. The head of finance, for example, right. They've lost engineering leads.
Right. So independent of this, you know, head of comms and policy, Rachel Whetstone, left. Gautam Gupta, the head of finance, left. Ed Baker, the head of growth, left. Amit Singhal resigned, and that was as a result of sexual harassment allegations that he'd faced at Alphabet, and he denies them. So there a lot of top executives have left the company. Meantime,
they've made 2 key new hires, both of them women. Tell us about them.
Yes. So a senior executive, or an executive from Apple, who's going to be the chief brand manager, and then Frances Frey, who's going to be, I'm going to get this wrong, like strategy, basically come in as like the Harvard Business School guru commuting from Cambridge to really give advice to the company about, you know, how it can sort of turn the corner. They're still looking for a chief operating officer, but two hires to try and
Frances Frey joining as Senior Vice President for Leadership and Strategy. Eric Newcomer, our Uber reporter. Always great stuff from you, Eric. Thanks so much. Great job breaking that story.
Thanks so much.
Sticking with autos, as the autonomous car competition heats up, a new partnership has been announced. Lyft will be partnering with Boston-based self-driving car startup nuTonomy. The goal of the partnership to eventually put thousands of autonomous vehicles on the road by focusing on R&D around understanding the passenger experience. In the meantime, the 2 companies say they intend to launch a limited pilot program in Boston within the next few months. Lyft's users will be able to hail one of nuTonomy's driverless vehicles by using Lyft's app. Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde spoke to the nuTonomy CEO just last month. This is what he had to say about the company.
We're a software company. We believe that building the software is the most capital efficient way to create a lot of value in this space. We're partnering with car makers. We're going to integrate our software with their cars and then put these cars on the road in a ride-hailing network. And so you'll be able to call one of our cars. It'll come pick you up and drop you off, just like a human-piloted taxi service. The difference is there'll be no one behind the wheel. And as a result, the cost of that service will be substantially lower than today's taxi services.
Now, to our exclusive interview with Tim Cook from Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference in San Jose, California. This conference sets the stage for hardware and software that will hit the market over the next 18 months. This year, the company announced updated MacBooks and iMacs, an iPad Pro, a major overhaul of the Apple Watch operating system. But the biggest announcement by far was the new HomePod, Apple's answer to Amazon's Echo and Google Home. That's where I started with Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. Take a listen.
You know, what we've tried to do is build something that is a breakthrough speaker first. And so music is deep in our DNA, you know, dating back from iTunes and iPod. And so we wanted something that, number one, sounded unbelievable. And I think when people listen to it, they're going to be shocked over the quality of the sound. And of course, it does a lot of other things, right? And all those are important as well. But we wanted a really high-quality audio experience as well.
You're very focused on how this could reinvent music in the home.
Yeah.
What about these other things? Will I be able to make a phone call, call a car, order groceries?
There's a lot of things you can do with it. You know, one of the advantages that we have is that there's a lot of things that Siri knows how to do from the phone. And so we'll start with a patch of those as Phil showed today during the keynote. And then you can bet that there's a nice follow-on activity there as well.
So let's talk about e-commerce. E-commerce is very important to these devices. I can order paper towels on my Amazon Echo. Does this tell us something about Apple's aspirations in retail?
No, I wouldn't read anything to it in that regard. What I would read into it is Apple's a company that deeply cares about music and wants to deliver a great audio experience in the home. We feel like we reinvented it in the portable player area, and we think we can reinvent it in the home as well. And we know that people want a speaker now to do more than that. And obviously we want a speaker to do more than that, and so we're sort of combining what has been thought of to be two distinctly different things till now. And I think people are going to love it. I know they are. I mean, I'm a user, and I think they're going to be kind of blown away with the experience.
How long have you been working on this?
Multiple years. And so the underlying technology in here is something to behold, and to get the experience that we wanted at the quality we wanted, you know, like Apple products in general take multiple years to do, starting from the core technology and then building up to the product.
You have people out there saying, finally. What took so long?
You know, for us, it's never been about being first to anything. If you think back, we didn't have the first MP3 player. We didn't have the first smartphone. We didn't have the first tablet. There was a tablet shipping a decade before. Very few people used it. Arguably, we shipped the first modern MP3 player, the first modern smartphone, the first modern tablet, but we weren't first in any of those. And so for us, it's not about being first. It's about being the best and giving the user an experience that delights them every time. And so we don't let that impatience result in shipping something that's just not great, right?
It's the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. You've unveiled the new iOS 11. What does that tell us about what's next with the phone?
I wouldn't want to answer that, but I can tell you that iOS 11 is unbelievable. And both for iPhone and for iPad. I mean, there's incredible things in it, from peer-to-peer payments. It's the biggest iPad release ever, and an area that I have great personal excitement on. I'm excited about all of it, but I'm incredibly excited about AR. And you saw the demos that were done today. I think this is profound. And I think we today are, as we get this developer release out in the hands of the developers, we'll have the largest augmented reality platform in the world. And I think we have launched AR in a way to large numbers of people, and I'm incredibly excited to see what some of the developers are going to come up with ARKit.
Exactly. You talked a lot about AR and VR with regards to developers, but what about consumers? When will consumers see an Apple AR product?
Well, that's another one of those things I'm obviously not going to answer. But you know, with a core technology and as a platform owner, the first thing, and arguably in some ways the most important, is to build the foundation. And then from that foundation, you can do many things off of it. But first, you have to have a really solid foundation. And so I think the developers are really going to love what they find in the developer build on ARKit.
That was Apple CEO Tim Cook. We will have more of that exclusive interview later this hour. Coming up, we take a look at the global rise of cryptocurrency and the surprising bar it just passed. Blockchain CEO joins us next. This is Bloomberg. In the latest funding board, Pinterest announced it's raised $150 million. Yet the investment came from a group of existing investors at the same share price as 2 years ago. The last fundraising round was in April 2015, valuing the business at about $11 billion. Through this latest injection of capital, Pinterest can delay a potential IPO as its business model matures. The company makes money by selling ads that look like posts on its site and currently has about 175 million monthly active users. Cryptocurrencies just hit a major threshold, one that may further solidify the ecosystems. Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde is in London and just spoke with some of the major players. Caroline, what do you got?
Emily, yeah, fascinating. Now the investment category of cryptocurrencies hit a new milestone. Get this, one that would have been thought unfathomable just a couple of years ago. The value of the new asset class, less than a decade old, now $100 billion, up tenfold in a year. Hitting that 12-digit threshold, Emily, it's largely due to Bitcoin, which is by far the largest digital currency. One company that has long believed in the young category is the company Blockchain. It's a platform for digital assets backed itself by VCs such as Lightspeed Ventures. I recently spoke with its CEO, Peter Smith, from Madrid, Spain, there to attend the MoneyConf, it's a big conference on financial technology. And I started by asking, well, what he sees as the driving force behind the rise of cryptocurrencies.
I think we're seeing really strong demand across a couple key markets. We're also seeing sort of record levels of macro instability across the world. I think that's driving a lot of the growth, but I think it would be a mistake to focus too much on that, as what we're seeing right now is a sort of huge insurgence of innovation in the space, particularly across the creation of a lot of new assets.
And so when you see a huge surge of innovation, does that mean we're going to see instability? We've seen plenty of volatility when you look at the pricing of Bitcoin, when you look at the pricing of Ethereum and many of the other digital currencies. Is that volatility here to stay?
You know, I think the volatility will be here to stay in the sense that the price is going to move a lot. You know, this is still a very nascent industry. Bitcoin is obviously very established and actually trades at a pretty low volatility relative. The other assets, the newer stuff like Ethereum or some of the ICOs that you're seeing, some of the sort of newer assets, I think those are going to remain really volatile until they mature and build market depth.
And talk to us about the trend of ICOs. We're starting to see companies, many of them startups themselves, launching their own cryptocurrency, their own token, and financing themselves this way. What is the trend there? What is the trend that you're seeing on blockchain in particular?
I think it's better to think of these as tokens rather than as initial coins. These tokens represent some value rather than some network value for that product or just an investment value in that open protocol. And I think you're seeing both tech companies, sort of new tech companies doing it, but you're also seeing established tech companies do it. So a great example of this is you're seeing Kik, which is a messaging platform backed by a lot of brand name VCs. They're issuing their own new token. You also see Brave, which was backed by a lot of brand name VCs, issuing a token as well. So I think you're seeing it across the tech space, both new projects and established products. And I think that's really interesting.
And what's phenomenal is, I think, was it Brave sold out within 24 seconds or something in terms of the amount of tokens they were issuing and the sheer scale of what they were able to raise. Can you paint a picture for our viewers of really how hot demand is and where you're seeing it come from?
Well, I think you're seeing people who are in the sort of digital asset or crypto space already have a really strong demand for investment products. So there's about $100 billion of capital now in the space, market cap wise, and they're looking for interesting products to back and interesting projects to back. I think Brave is a really interesting one, and so you're right, it sold out about $35 million in 24 seconds. To be honest, right now the space is really nascent in the ICO space, and so we're seeing a lot of stuff that's great. We're also seeing a lot of stuff that's worrying, and that's just going to take time to mature out. But I think what's really important to realize about it is that it's a huge improvement over the status quo, over how small private companies raise capital. And this is not just about high-tech companies. This is also about tech companies and real any company across the world that's trying to raise capital to do something. I think it's going to totally revolutionize the way that people raise capital.
That was blockchain CEO Peter Smith. Now, the rampant growth of cryptocurrencies has become clear, and one company that's cashing in on the appetite, it's the startup eToro. The company is a leading social trading network for people to trade currencies, commodities, as well as, more recently, cryptocurrencies. And today it announced a new so-called copy fund, enabling investors with about $5,000 to spare to access the top investment strategies for holding Bitcoin and Ethereum and currencies. Now, I started by asking the rationale for the launch of the company's new venture.
Yes, well, we've seen a huge spike in both volume, number of users, and obviously the prices of the cryptocurrencies lately. Today, we're seeing the cryptocurrency market cap as a whole surpassing for the first time in history $100 billion, which we believe is an important milestone for this industry. And I'm here at the Money Conference in Madrid, where we'll be launching this week our cryptocurrency Copy Fund. Copy Fund is a thematic investment product that we've released last year around thematic investment strategies in stocks and our top traders. And we're launching this week basically a Copy Fund which automatically invests in Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two largest cryptocurrencies in the market, with market cap of over $40 billion and over $20 billion of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we've seen a lot of our customers asking us how to allocate their portfolios between the different cryptocurrencies. So we've created the Copy Fund to enable people to simply invest in a Copy Fund in eToro, which is a digital portfolio management product where people simply invest in the Copy Fund, and we automatically rebalance it based on the market cap of Bitcoin and Ethereum.
That was eToro founder and CEO Yoni Assia. He too is in Madrid for the Money Conf event. Emily, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Caroline Hyde in London. A reminder of our new interactive TV function. You can find it at TV Go on the Bloomberg. You can watch us live. If you miss an interview, you can go back to it. Or you can send our producers a message. Play along with the charts that we bring you on air. This is for our Bloomberg subscribers only. Check it out at TV Go. This is Bloomberg. A story we are watching. The parent company of Snapchat has acquired a startup called Placed, a company that measures the offline success of digital ad campaigns. The deal is worth about $125 million and will help Snap expand its efforts to show that ads on its photo and video sharing app Snapchat are driving users to stores. Seattle-based Placed will continue to operate independently. California is the home to tech giants like Apple, Facebook, and Google, which brings in millions in tax revenue and thousands of jobs to the state. Governor Jerry Brown spoke with Bloomberg's Tom McKenzie in Beijing. He said America can't rest on its laurels as competitive pressure grows from China.
The competitive game is getting more intense. America can't rest on its laurels. And if we're going to spend more time trying to reduce taxes on the rich instead of generating more investment in the private sector, but also investment in the public sector, we're going to lose out. And that is kind of where I think Washington's going right now.
A federal judge has fined Dish Network a record $280 million for making robocalls to consumers on do-not-call lists. The U.S. District Judge directed the company to pay $168 million to the federal government and $84 million to California, Illinois, North Carolina, and Ohio for federal law violations. An additional $28 million in fines was awarded to California, North Carolina, and Ohio for violations of state law. Dish plans to appeal the ruling and blames almost all the calls on contractors and subcontractors. Coming up, more of our exclusive interview with Apple CEO Tim Cook, how the company fights the threat of terror while also protecting user privacy. And if you like Bloomberg News, check us out on the radio. You can listen on the Bloomberg Radio app, Bloomberg.com, and in the U.S. on SiriusXM. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Technology. I'm Emily Chang. This week, UK Prime Minister Theresa May put more pressure on technology companies to prevent their products and services from being used by violent extremists after a third attack in the UK in as many months. Apple has taken a stand on user privacy in the past in a standoff with the U.S. FBI about unlocking the suspect's iPhone in a shooting in San Bernardino, California. We spoke exclusively with Apple CEO Tim Cook about what the company is doing to combat the terror threat while balancing user security.
These terrorist attacks, first of all, our heart goes out to everyone affected by them. They're horrendous, and the UK, for us, we've been in the UK pretty much the whole length of time for our company, and it feels like they're a neighbor. We have thousands of employees there, and so our heart goes out. And so what do we do from helping with this? We've done one thing since the beginning of the App Stores. We curate the App Store. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want hate speech on there. We don't want these kind of recruiting kind of things on there. And so we've tried to be very careful from the beginning about not having that stuff on there. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we'll never make a mistake, but actually I don't know of a case where something has gotten through in that perspective. And so we're very vigilant on what kind of happens from that point of view. We also, we've been cooperating with the UK government in not only in law enforcement kind of matters, but on some of the attacks, and I can't speak in detail about that. But in cases where we have information and they've gone through the lawful process, we not just give it, but we do it very, very promptly. And so I think, I would hope that they would say that we've been cooperating well, and I think that some valuable information. And so there's I think a misunderstanding about encryption doesn't mean there's no information. Mm-hmm. Right, because likely metadata exists. And metadata, if you're putting together a profile, is very important.
Can we assume that Apple is always working to make encryption even stronger?
The reality is that the cyber attacks on people and governments, and it's happening left and right everywhere, these affect your safety, your security. So it's not just privacy. It's not privacy versus security. It's privacy and security versus security. And so we're always working to try to stay one step ahead of these hackers that, frankly speaking, have gone from the guy in the basement that's a kind of hobbyist to a sophisticated enterprise, and it takes all that we can do to do it, and we don't think our users should have to think through all these stuff. It's not practical for people, and so we try to stand up for our users and stay one step ahead of these guys.
Our exclusive conversation there with Apple CEO Tim Cook. For more now, I want to bring in our Bloomberg tech editor, Alistair Barr. What did you make of his answer to my question?
Yeah, he didn't really answer it directly, kind of half answered it. So the most interesting point there is his point about metadata, which is kind of the more generic, general data around, let's say, an important text message that the FBI...
It's basically the tracks that
Yeah. So you can build a profile of what people were doing. So-and-so was over here talking to, another person over there. But it didn't answer the fact of, that the FBI and other organizations and authorities, they want the actual messages that are in like an encrypted text message, for instance, and they want to see it, going over the ether to the other person as well. And the metadata, wouldn't provide that much detail.
Does it sound like they're trying to strike a balance?
Yeah, certainly. It sounds like they're trying to strike a balance, especially much more than last year when they clashed with the FBI in court over that shooting.
So you do think there's a change in tone?
Well, I think there's certainly a change in the messaging and the tone anyway. I don't know whether there's a change in the actual activity, because I'm sure there's still, when the FBI tries to get into locked iPhones, they're still locked out of a lot of them, so I'm sure they would still have a lot of complaints. But really, it's even more important for Apple to strike a balance now between the security and helping authorities and the people's privacy. That's becoming way more important. And for Apple, it's a product, right? That privacy is a product. And he was talking about how cyber hackers, there are FBI hackers who are trying to help the government. There are cyber hackers who are trying to steal our data, and they want to encrypt stuff so that cyber hackers can't steal our data.
Right. I do want to point out that it was interesting to hear him say they are helping in the aftermath of the UK terror attacks. We covered a lot of ground, of course, and we also talked about the issue of repatriation. Of course, Apple has hundreds of billions of dollars in cash overseas. I asked him how he would like a repatriation, to the extent that this happens, a repatriation bill to be structured. Take a listen to what he had to say.
In our view, it should be a deemed repatriation. This means it should be a required tax. And so you're not asking the people that have had earnings from their international subsidiaries if they'd like to bring back money. You're saying that you must pay the government X% now or over some period of time. And I think my own advice would be is that the U.S. use that money for a significant infrastructure spend in the U.S. because it creates jobs.
Interesting that he agrees with President Trump on one thing.
Yeah,
the importance of infrastructure.
Yeah, stop the presses. That's the big news. Yeah, they actually agree on something. That they obviously have been disagreeing on the Paris Accord lately. So it's kind of refreshing to hear they're agreeing on something. Obviously, it's in Apple's best interest that a tax rule like this comes out. They have over $250 billion in cash. Bring that home, they have a lot more flexibility on what they do with that money.
All right. Well, we'll of course be watching that. Alistair Barr, our Bloomberg tech editor, thanks so much for joining us. Coming up, more from our exclusive conversation with Tim Cook. We'll talk a little bit more about his relationship to President Trump and his decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. That is next. This is Bloomberg. The countdown for Delivery Hero's much-anticipated IPO is on. Based in Berlin, the food takeout business has officially announced it plans to raise over $500 million from a public listing. It plans to list on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in the coming months. The food delivery company is backed by Germany's Rocket Internet. The IPO would give a much-needed reprieve to Rocket and its CEO, Oliver Samwer, who hasn't taken a startup public since 2014. Back to our exclusive interview with Apple CEO Tim Cook. We had to touch on the president's decision to leave the Paris Climate Agreement. Cook was just one of a number of Silicon Valley leaders who contacted the White House directly to ask the president not to pull the U.S. out. We asked Cook if he thought the president listened.
I think he did listen to me. he didn't decide what I wanted him to decide. And I think he decided wrong. I think it's not good, not in the best interest of the United States, what he decided. And but in terms of, the way that I look at this thing, and do you interact with politicians or do you not? My view is that first and foremost, things are about can you help your country? And if you can help your country and you do that by interacting, then you do it. That country eclipses politics.
So you have other people that are leaving the table, though, like Bob Iger, like Elon Musk. Is the president jeopardizing his relationship with one of his key constituencies, the business community?
I think there's I would differentiate, and I'm not speaking for those guys, obviously, but I would differentiate leaving a council and advising in a way that you think can help our country. And I think the first one is a judgment call that people make. I didn't join a council, and so it's not a decision I had to make, but I understand both sides of that. But advising on something that you believe will help America, I think is a requirement as a CEO. You definitely do that. And if I get the chance to go pitch the Paris Agreement again, I'm going to do it again, because I think it's very important that we engage to fight climate change on a global basis. This isn't something where you can solve it country by country. It requires a global action. Emissions created in one country affect another, and so it's something that we feel very strongly about. And I wanted to do every single thing that we could do to tell how important it was to stay in the agreement. And unfortunately, he decided something different.
Why didn't you join a council?
Why didn't I? Because two reasons. One, my primary job is being the CEO of the company. And I spend the bulk of my waking hours doing that. And I do so willingly because I love the company and the people in it. And so traveling back east isn't something that I look forward to doing, except when I need to do. Secondly, I don't find these councils in general and committees to be terribly productive. And but it wasn't about not wanting to advise on something where I thought that we could help, or we had a point of view that should be heard. And so I'm doing the latter. I can't imagine a situation where I wouldn't do the latter, because I think it's in the best interest of America to do it, and I am first and foremost an American.
More of our exclusive conversation there with Apple CEO Tim Cook. Bloomberg's editor-at-large Corey Johnson joins us now. The environment, of course, has been a long-standing issue for Apple, an area that they've been criticized in, an area that they have worked on. Yeah. What do you make of Tim Cook's remarks?
Well, they seem to be heartfelt, and I think you can see it from the actions of the company. The company is a lot more political than it was under Steve Jobs' era, and both in terms of sort of policies around immigration and the involvement with the White House. It's also the biggest company in the world by market cap, so it has to sort of take a stand there. And I think it's also interesting that this is a business that 100% of their data centers are run on green power, with solar, wind, and so on. 96% of their entire business worldwide is run on renewable energy, and they're even going to a point where they're building solar facilities in China so their suppliers can get solar power. So they have a real deep commitment to this, and they're showing it in their actions.
What do you make of the sort of model that Tim Cook has said of not joining a council, yet maintaining an open dialogue with the president that Silicon Valley has largely criticized?
It's so interesting to see him as such the diplomat, because a lot of that stuff was nonsense. You had these big meetings with all these people who have very little input, who see the president very infrequently, and who apparently the president doesn't listen to. So,
but it caused great headaches for you know, the CEO of Uber when he was on the council and he had to drop off.
And to what end? To what benefit? You know, I'm sure he wasn't crying a tear, nor was Elon Musk about dropping out of these panels. We're not a lot is achieved here. Now, in the sense that these businesses can actually do better business or affect policy change, they're going to want to. But what we see from this White House is even some of the people in the White House who are supposedly advising the president on these matters aren't getting their way. You know, what Tim Cook didn't say outright is it's a waste of time. But he kind of said it's a waste of time.
But he also said he's still sitting at the table to the extent that there's a chair there, and when the president wants to interact,
it looks like he'll pick up the phone, but I don't know if he's going to sit at the table. Yeah, I think that's the difference.
Okay, Corey Johnson, our editor-at-large, thanks so much. Coming up, the HPE Discover conference is underway, just the second since the company split. And Meg Whitman, currently on stage presenting her keynote, will bring you the latest out in Las Vegas next. And a quick programming note, tune in all day Wednesday for special coverage, Bloomberg Investment Summit 2017. We will be bringing you top interviews with Blackstone CEO Steve Schwartzman, John Winkelried, co-CEO at TPG, and PIMCO CIO Daniel Iveson. This is Bloomberg. Few more headlines grabbing our attention. Amazon Prime will now be available to low-income shoppers at a discount. Those with a valid electronics benefit transfer cards will pay $5.99 a month for perks like free shipping and unlimited streaming of movies and TV shows. Some analysts say the move will help Amazon better compete with Walmart. 21st Century Fox is diving deeper into video games. It's acquired Aftershock, a company that's designing a mobile game based on the global blockbuster Fox film Avatar. Terms weren't disclosed. The game is expected to come out before the Avatar film sequel, which is due to come out in 2020. The HPE Discover conference is currently underway. It is the second Discover conference since HPE became its own company. We caught up with HP Enterprise Executive Vice President Antonio Neri and asked about the company's progress since the split.
Well, I think, we have made huge progress. Obviously, if you think about the progress HPE Inc. has made themselves, you can see the results and the innovation they continue to bring on the market. On our side, we lay the foundation for the company going forward. We have completed already one of the spin mergers with CSE, creating the second largest services company as a pure player. And we lay a very clear strategy for Hewlett Packard Enterprise going forward. And we are very excited about that because it gives us focus, purpose, and honestly, now we are applying our capital and our innovation just around that strategy. So for us, it's been a great journey, and customers really like what we're doing.
How has the merger of Dell and EMC changed the competitive landscape?
Well, I think Dell EMC have taken a completely different strategy than what we have done. Think about Dell EMC. They got bigger, they leveraged the balance sheet, and obviously have taken a lot of debt. They play a scale game, but mostly on the older technologies. We actually have taken a completely different radical approach to that. We want to be smaller, more nimble, and actually we have delevered our balance sheet and be able to make the right investment, both organic, inorganic with the M&A, but also through our partnership ecosystem. So we believe, we are positioned to win here because what customers are looking for is innovation, speed, and agility, and the efficiency that we can bring to them at the speed of their business. Because in the end, it's all about delivering business outcomes, and it's all about delivering time to value faster. So we believe we are very well positioned. Time will tell, but we like our hand, we like our strategy.
Antonio, you're often touted as a successor to Meg Whitman, not that she's going anywhere as far as we know, but what do you think HPE needs in a leader?
Well, listen, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm having a tremendous blast working with Meg and the team, position this company for the future. As you know, I've been in the company for 22 years. always in many different areas of the business. And I'm very excited about the future of this company. I think, we can position, again, HPE for the next 75 years journey around actually innovating around the customer problems. So for us, it's all about how we bring value to customer faster, how we use our engineering and innovation DNA to solve those problems, and ultimately how we deliver customers value in a business outcome oriented. So for us, it's all about positioning HPE at the core of that transformation and become the trusted advisor for our customers.
That was HP Enterprise Executive Vice President Antonio Neri. And be sure not to miss our exclusive interview with HPE CEO Meg Whitman. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. I'll be asking about how HP dominates in the cloud, talking about her vision for the future of computing, the machine, this big futuristic project they are working on, as well as her report card on HPE post-split. That does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. And remember, we are live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Bloomberg Tech TV weekdays, 5 p.m. in New York, 2 p.m. in San Francisco. That is all for now. This is Bloomberg.